It's in the midst of the raging storm that peace is actually demonstrated. Towards the end of Matthew 6, Jesus begins to describe this amazing Father. And he says he cares, look at the birds, he cares for the birds, he feeds the birds. Look at the flower of the field. Not even Solomon, the best dressed man in the world, the richest king, not even Solomon is arrayed like one of these. And in this discourse where he's teaching the good Father, he actually says, "O you of little faith." The same thing he says in Matthew 8. Verse 31, Matthew 6. "Therefore, do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For after all these things the Gentiles seek. For your heavenly Father knows that you need all these things." He starts off and he says, don't worry what you shall eat or what you shall wear. So two things we want to highlight there. The first reference of clothing in Genesis is when Adam and Eve made garments to cover their shame. Clothing is a covering of shame. God then, we know the story, he came in and he gave them garments by the shedding of blood, because he made them out of skin that could not wear out. And as you go through the Bible, then you see clothing described as robes of righteousness. It says he covers me in a robe of righteousness. In Revelation, he talks about having garments of white, garments of holiness. And so clothing is a marker of identity. It's a total covering of shame. And what you see here is you see Jesus say, do not worry. That word worry, it actually means to be divided into parts, to be torn into pieces, because you are pulled in multiple directions. You're pulled in multiple directions. And he says, after all these things, the Gentiles seek. Gentiles, those who do not yet know or recognize God as Father. He says, this is the life of those who do not see the Father the way he ought to be seen. He says, they are torn apart, seeking identity and provision in something that will never satisfy. And he says this, or we can extrapolate this. By recognizing God as Father, you find wholeness, freedom from worry, and a life filled with his purposes.